On this feast of the dedication of our church, this celebration of our sacred space, which, by the way, is the very spiritual heart of our community, Eldersburg and Sykesville. This is the epicenter of spirituality. I would like to have you remember one thing. And that one thing is that this sacred space forms us spiritually. And not only that, when we worship here, we sanctify this holy space by our encounters with Jesus Christ at the Mass. So there's a reciprocal relationship between this sacred space and us, forming us, and we sanctifying it. That's the reciprocal relationship. To illustrate this, I'd like to tell you about my past. I come from a tradition, a Baptist tradition, an evangelical tradition that really focuses on the word preached and fellowship, and along with so many other of the Reformed denominations have played down the idea of sacred space in favor of the proclamation of the Scriptures as the heart of their worship. And it's very interesting historically that in the mid-19th century, there was a movement in England called the Oxford movement, where they started to go deep into the church fathers and in tradition, the history of liturgy, and it affected the architecture. And churches started being built all across the board, even in all the different denominations, with beauty, with an idea of sacred space. And my church, when I was a little kid, was one of those that were built that were beautiful. It's a Baptist church, and I remember, this is why you need to bring your little kids to church, okay? They're little receptacles of holiness, okay? And so as a little tot growing up, I remember walking up the steps. Even that was important because you ascend into heaven. That's what you're doing when you're going into sacred space. You ascend into heaven. And I remember the rich woods that were paneled all over the place. And there was warm stained glass windows. They were predominantly green. And that with the rich woods, the pipe organ and its pipes, and the furniture up on the, what I guess you would call in the Baptist church, the stage or whatever you'd call it, that really affected me, so much so that I had paradise dreams when I was growing up. I did. You know what my paradise dreams were? That I was walking through the church and that the stained glass windows, the sun was coming through them, and it would be expanded in such a way that it was beyond what it ever was really in reality. And it was like walking into heaven. And that is why we come to church. This is what our sacred space is. When you come in here, it is like walking into heaven. My pastor he wanted to be true to tradition, so one of the first things he did, and he could do when he came there, was destroy the church and build a big auditorium with no symbols at all except for the pulpit in the center. And years later, I came and talked with him, and I told him about enthusiastically how I loved the old church, and he just looked at me. Because he had no use for it. But it was heaven to me. Actually, when I tore it down, I was able to purchase one of the sections of the stained glass window, and I actually embedded it in my study in the wall. So I took a little bit of paradise with me, and it remains with me. And so yes, this is heaven. If you look at the instructions that God gave Moses to build the tabernacle, he was to build it according to the vision that he saw of heaven. So everything you see in the tabernacle, everything you see in the temple in the Old Testament, is just not something that was for that time. It is a vision of eternity. And so much of what we have here in our holy space is parallel to the visions of the tabernacle and the temple in the Old Testament, but also with Ezekiel's vision of the future temple and what we see in the book of Revelation. Like there is an altar, and it's where worship happens, because worship is sacrifice. You notice in the last few weeks we've taken the candlesticks from the old church. These are part of our tradition, those of our ancestors of St. Joseph. This was part of what they saw every time they came to Mass, which is an aspect of heaven with the candlesticks, which Jesus walks among, right? In Europe, the great cathedrals, they're all essentially dedicated to the Blessed Mother. Do you know why? Because Notre Dame Paris, Notre Dame Amiens, Notre Dame Our Lady of Chartres, it is the Blessed Mother that is symbolized by this grand Gothic edifice, because within her we have the tabernacle where the body and blood of Jesus is kept. Like Jesus incarnate in the womb of the Blessed Mother. So the church is. And it has to be beautiful. It has to be beautiful. Now, you notice that there's been changes going on in the church for the last 5 years, and one of them is the stained glass windows. As you know, I'm partial to stained glass windows. We want to make it a bit of heaven, right? And of course, St. Joseph is our patron, right? And so we have Joseph in the Old Testament, and if you look at the windows and you see a cross, we have Joseph in the New Testament with parallels in their lives. There would not be a Joseph in the New Testament, St. Joseph. It wasn't for the St. Joseph of the Old Testament. It binds the Old Testament and New Testament around us, and it always reminds us that St. Joseph is our patron saint, that he is here praying for us. Like this structure, when our bishop saw it, he said, this place got good bones. Don't you feel it's got good bones? It does. It's warm. It's not a great Gothic cathedral, but when I first came here, the pillars were all rotting out. Did you realize that? On the outside, it looked good, but on the inside, it wasn't looking so good. And thank God that we were able to save the church, right? But that gave me a lesson. It says that, we might look good on the outside, but perhaps things aren't so well on the inside, right? And so we've been trying very hard to deepen our formation. And essential to our formation is sacred space, because sacred space forms us like it did my little soul when I was growing up. And we, in turn, make it holy through our worship over the years and years and years of glorifying God in this space. And we're going to continue to beautify it. I invite you to come the 21st of October, which is coming up soon, where we're going to show to you why and what it will look like for us to expand our chapel and to beautify the chapel. And so if you're interested in that, please come, because, again, sacred space. When you come in here, you come in with a lot of troubles, don't you? How many of us don't have troubles? It's chaos out there. But when you come in here, you leave your troubles behind. My wife just called me and says her car doesn't start. That's a trouble, okay? But when I come in here, they're all gone, because you and I are experiencing heaven together. Now, it takes, in this world, it takes us to give of our time, treasure, and talent to make this place go. And so, did you say that Jake is? Jake, come on up here. Reveal the mysteries that you've created over the last, yeah, right, yeah, come on up.